Little girl in a wheelchair saluted a royal guard. And he did something no one expected. "Mommy, did he see me?" I saluted him. Her voice was soft, brittle like the early autumn wind that swept across the palace courtyard. I didn't turn. I couldn't. That would have been breaking protocol. And a royal guard does not move. Not for cameras, not for kings, not even for dying little girls who offer you the purest act of honor they know. But I heard her. It was the way she said it. So sincere, so disappointed, so unaware that her words cut through every layer of discipline I had learned to wear like armor. I stood still, rigid as the bare skin on my head, the Enfield rifle resting by my side. Just another day at the gates of Buckingham Palace. Tourists laughing, taking selfies, trying to provoke a reaction from the Queen's guards. None got one. None ever did. That was the point. But she wasn't trying to provoke. She was trying to connect. Out of the corner of my eye, I had seen her arrive. A small figure in a purple wheelchair, pushed slowly by a woman with deep lines of fatigue etched into her face. The child's arms were like twigs, her cheeks sunken. Yet there was a sparkle in her eyes as she reached the barriers. And then she raised her little hand and held it there, unwavering. A salute to me. No mocking, no games, just a child who seemed to understand what it meant to show respect. But I did nothing. I stared ahead, unmoving, my training more powerful than instinct. The code of the guard is clear. Absolute silence, absolute stillness, regardless of what stands before you. The child waited for a moment. Then her hand slowly lowered and came the question, the one that has lived in me ever since. "Mommy, did he see me?" I saluted him. Her mother knelt beside her, holding the wheelchair handles with trembling fingers. "He saw you, love," she whispered. "He sees everything." The crowd moved on. The girl didn't look back, but I watched them go with my eyes, not my head. I watched until the mist swallowed them. I don't remember the rest of that shift. Not the tourists pretending to faint. Not the American woman yelling at me to smile. Not the teenager who tried to dance beside me for TikTok. None of them mattered. I only remembered her. When my relief arrived at 6 p.m. sharp, I saluted, marched off in line with my unit, and made straight for the security office. I wasn't meant to be there. Guards don't meddle with tech or cameras. But that day, I broke a rule. "Charlie," I said to the sergeant in charge of CCTV, "I need footage from earlier about 1540 East Courtyard Gate." He raised an eyebrow. "You never ask for footage." "I know," I said, "but today's different." He didn't press further. We sat in the cold gray room filled with humming monitors and blinking red lights. He queued up the footage. The screen flickered for a moment, then cleared. And there she was. Her wheelchair rolled up to the edge of the cordon. She raised her arms slowly, shaking from the effort. Her lips moved. "I salute you, sir." Her mother's hand rested gently on her shoulder. They waited, her arms still held high for 20 seconds, maybe 30. Then the hand fell. She said the words again. "Mommy, did he see me?" The camera had picked it up perfectly. The way she said it made the air in the room feel heavy. Sergeant Charlie leaned back in silence. "Blimey," he murmured. She wasn't playing. "No," I said. "She wasn't." I stared at the screen long after the footage ended. My fingers clenched into fists. Not from anger, from shame. Because I had heard her and I had done nothing. I should have nodded, tilted my head, winked anything. But I didn't because royal guards don't break protocol. But that day, I broke something else. A promise I never got to make. A moment I would never get back. "She's ill," I said. Voice hoarse. "Very. You can tell." "Yeah," I whispered. "You learn to see it. In the way they hold themselves like they're older than they should be. The quiet ones, the respectful ones. They are not playing tourist. They're saying goodbye." He paused, then asked, "You want me to help find out who she is?" I hesitated. The answer was yes. But I shook my head. Not yet. He didn't press further. Neither did I. That night, I couldn't sleep. The barracks were quiet, save for the occasional rustle of uniforms and the clink of boots. But in my mind, her voice echoed louder than any bugle ever had. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, going over the moment again and again, rewriting it. In my version, I did salute. I turned my head slightly, gave her a look that said, "I see you. I honor you." But real life isn't fiction. And that's not what happened. What happened is a little girl saluted a royal guard, and he stood still like a statue, like a coward behind tradition. The next morning, I visited the duty roster and requested transfer to the same post, Eastgate, Buckingham, every shift for the next fortnight. When asked why, I only said there's someone I'm hoping comes back because I wasn't going to miss the chance again. If she returned, even for one moment, I'd find a way to let her know. Yes, I saw you, and I will never forget. Her name was Ellie, 9 years old. Soft curls like spring leaves and a voice barely louder than a whisper. I found out through an unlikely source, a part-time palace guide who'd overheard her mother speaking to another visitor a few days later. Word gets around in places like ours, not through gossip, but through a kind of unspoken reverence for the stories that matter. Ellie had leukemia, terminal. Her mother, Clara, had brought her to London for what the doctors said might be her last good week. Not Disneyland, not beaches, not celebrity sightings. Buckingham Palace, because Ellie didn't want to be a princess. She wanted to be a royal guard. If I get better, she had told her mom, I'll be the first girl to stand like him. I won't blink either, not even once. Her mother laughed, cried, and promised to buy her a toy sword if she could sit through an entire hour in silence. Ellie had made it to 47 minutes before she burst into giggles at a pigeon. But still, she had passed her own test. She meant it. I later learned that she had studied YouTube videos of the changing of the guard, memorized the marching patterns, watched interviews with former guards to learn their habits, their rules, their quiet pride. She didn't see us as tourist attractions. She saw us as heroes. I was back on duty the following Wednesday when she returned. It was near dusk. Fewer crowds, the air tined with the smell of coming rain. I was stationed at the outer post nearest the public walk. And there she was. Her wheelchair now bore a small plastic Union Jack flag, fluttering in the wind. Her face was paler than before, her lips tinged blue around the edges, but she smiled as if she had no idea death was crouched just a few steps behind her. Our eyes met. She didn't raise her hand this time. Instead, she motioned toward her lap. Her mom reached into a canvas bag and pulled out a small black box. She wheeled forward just until the security line held her back. Then she looked up at me. I knew I shouldn't move, but I did. I bent, not much, just enough for our eyes to meet properly, and reached over the rope. She handed me the box. Inside was a pin, silver, delicate, about the size of a coin. It was shaped like a shield with 2 words etched in faint but perfect engraving. For honor, for silence. I didn't know what to say. But then again, I wasn't allowed to say anything, so I did what I could. I placed the box over my heart and bowed my head. Her eyes lit up like I'd handed her a crown. Her mother wiped away a tear and said softly, "She made it herself." Told me she wanted to give it to someone who understands silence the way she does. That nearly broke me. We stood there, 3 figures in an invisible ceremony that no one else around noticed. Eventually she whispered, "Now we're both guards, aren't we?" I nodded, barely. That tiny tilt broke every regulation I'd ever sworn to uphold. But I would have broken 10,000 more for that moment. Her wheelchair turned. She waved once. I stayed still. That evening, back in the barracks, I placed the pin inside my personal locker, top shelf, to the right of my inspection kit. I didn't wear it. I didn't dare, not yet, because something inside told me it wasn't time. This pin wasn't just a gift. It was a commission. A badge passed from one soldier to another, and I promised myself I would wear it when it mattered most. Trooping the color. It was the Queen's official birthday parade. A sea of red, gold, and black filling them all like a ribbon of history being rewritten live. The precision, the spectacle, the thunder of hooves and boots all moving as one. And us, royal guards, statues in motion, protectors of pageantry. I was stationed along the ceremonial line just beneath the Victoria Memorial, the point closest to the crowd. It was my 4th trooping. I'd marched in the rain and blistering sun once, even with a twisted ankle and a stitched gash from training the day before. We didn't flinch. That was our role that day. I almost broke because she came back. Ellie. I saw her as we turned the final bend past the memorial, forming that eyes-right position toward the Queen's balcony. But my eyes were elsewhere. There she was, front row of the crowd behind the white robe, tucked into her wheelchair like a porcelain doll wrapped in Union Jack blankets. This time her face was thinner, lips dry, skin like parchment. But the fire in her eyes still burned, just barely. She wasn't waving this time. She was saluting. Her fragile arm rose shakily, and I swear for a moment time slowed. I saw her lips move. "Stand proud, soldier." No one else could hear it, but I did. Somewhere inside me, I heard it loud as a cannon. I was mid-step. I shouldn't have reacted. Not in the middle of the Queen's procession, not with cameras rolling, dignitaries watching, and thousands of spectators lining the road. But I did. It was small, a barely noticeable tilt, a lowering of the chin, a soft drop of the head, a nod, not of command, but of recognition. Not for the Queen, not for the nation, for her. That moment passed in less than a second, but the internet caught it and the world noticed. By that evening, someone had clipped the footage, a perfect 8-second video that exploded across every social platform. The caption read, "The guard who bowed to a dying child." It racked up 2 million views in 12 hours, then 10, then 25. I stopped counting after that. The press flooded in. Every outlet wanted a quote, but I gave none. I wasn't allowed to speak to the media, and even if I was, I didn't need to. The clip said enough. That night, I was summoned to HQ. Major Linton met me with a folder in hand and a face carved from granite. "Do you understand?" He began slowly. "What you've done?" "Yes, sir." "You broke protocol?" "Yes, sir." "During the Queen's ceremony?" "Yes, sir." He slammed the folder shut. "You do realize one head tilt is all it takes to unravel centuries of ceremonial discipline. One step out of line, and the sanctity of tradition falls apart like wet paper." I didn't flinch. "With respect, sir, I disagree." He arched a brow. "Excuse me." I looked him in the eye. "We salute monarchs, prime ministers, decorated generals, but that little girl gave everything just to be there, to sit through pain, exhaustion, and whatever hell her body is going through, so she could salute one of us. She didn't ask for anything in return. She just gave." "And your nod was what?" "A reward." "No, sir," I said softly. "It was respect." He leaned back. "You're on probation from active parade duty. 48 hours, full review pending." I nodded. "Understood." As I turned to leave, he added, "Nathan." I paused. "There are moments when tradition must bend," he said quietly. "But be certain, the line between honor and indulgence is razor thin." I walked out, not sure whether I'd be suspended or celebrated. By the next morning, the palace switchboard had received over 2,000 letters. Many from children, others from veterans. One from a head mistress who wrote, "Our entire school cried watching that clip. You reminded them that service isn't silence. It's knowing when silence must speak." I wasn't suspended, but I was moved back to regular gay duty, which was fine by me because she came again. 2 days later, Ellie didn't look well. Her mother pushed the chair more slowly this time. They didn't stay long, but before leaving, Ellie looked straight at me and gave the softest smile I've ever seen on a human face. Then she tapped her chest right where a badge might go. I understood. It wasn't just a salute anymore. It was a promise, a passing of the torch. And I knew in that moment my duty wasn't just to a crown or a country. It was to the kind of courage that salutes when no one is watching, to the kind of girl who bowed only to death, but still stood taller than most men ever would. Ellie didn't come back. Not on Monday, not on Wednesday, not for the whole week that followed. I stood each day at the same post near Buckingham's eastern gate, eyes scanning the crowd, hoping to see the flash of her wheelchair, the small Union Jack flag tied to the side. Nothing. Only strangers, tourists, noise, no spark. By the third week I knew. I didn't want to believe it, but soldiers have instincts, and sometimes silence doesn't just mean discipline. It means absence. On my day off, I traveled to Great Ormond Street Hospital where she'd been treated. I came in plain clothes, not the crimson tunic and beeskin hat, though even out of uniform, I carried the weight of it. I asked softly at the reception if I might speak with someone from the pediatric oncology ward. I expected resistance. I didn't expect her mother to be there. Clara stood outside the ward holding a small paper bag. Her shoulders were hunched forward, her hair tied in a messy knot. When she saw me, she didn't cry. She smiled. "Ellie knew you'd come," she said quietly. I swallowed. I hoped I was wrong. She passed 3 nights ago in her sleep. "Peaceful," they said. "But you know what?" She was clutching. I shook my head. "The little black box, the one she gave you the pin in. She'd asked for it back the day after the parade." I think she knew. She never said it out loud, but she knew. She reached into the paper bag and pulled out a folded piece of drawing paper yellowed at the edges and stained faintly with what looked like tea or tears. "I wanted you to have this," she said. I unfolded it slowly. It was a drawing done in felt tip markers, slightly wobbly in the lines, but full of heart. A tall figure in a red coat and bearskin hat stood on one side, bent slightly at the waist. In front of him, a small girl with angel wings saluted. Above them floated the words, uneven and charmingly spelled, "My royal guard, my friend forever." My throat closed. "She always said she wanted a real soldier to salute her," Clara said, hands trembling. "Not for being sick, for being brave." From a velvet pouch, she drew the pin I'd hidden in my locker and a note tied with ribbon. "Please wear this when you say goodbye. Even if I'm not a soldier like you, I was brave too." "And brave girls get saluted," I nodded. "I'll come." Clara asked one more thing. The uniform. On Friday, a small church in Leeds held a quiet service. No cameras, no officials, just family, neighbors, a white coffin, and rain. I arrived in full dress, scarlet tunic, boots mirror black, bearskin hat in hand. The silver badge over my heart read, "For honor, for silence." Whispers died as I walked the aisle. A violin thinned the air. They spoke of Ellie's laugh, her stubbornness, her encyclopedic love of royal guards. When the final farewell was called, I stepped forward. My boots struck stone. I raised my ceremonial sword to my brow, then bowed low and held the salute as the coffin passed beneath the arch of steel. In that moment, she was no longer a child. She was a soldier who stood her post. Someone sobbed. Then Clara folded into my chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "You gave her what she dreamed of." Afterward, I touched Ellie's drawing of an angel and a guard. "You stood taller than any of us," I said. Outside, I let the drizzle soak the bare skin. Grief, like honor, must be borne. That night, I hung the uniform and left the pin where it belonged, over my heart. Because silence can carry justice, and honor lives in the salutes we keep forever.